Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you may be. This is the Overnight. I'm DM Foss, and tonight we have gun websites. How's it going, G Webs?
Oh,
Gun
sorry.
websites.
Listening
How's
to
it
the
going,
wrong
G-Webs?
audio. Welcome.
And Gizzard Gary. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing pretty well for a Saturday night, Sunday morning. Thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, I remembered the banner. Hang on, let me get the banner going here.
Yeah, don't forget the banner.
At the bottom of the screen, there is a scroll creeping across there with an email, untacticalfoss@gmail.com. You can send in comments, suggestions, or pictures within reason. And there's a link for the Discord server. Excuse me. Place to hang out, chit chat, share pictures and memes, and you can get a hold of me there. And pretty much anybody else comes on the chat, you can get a hold of them too, should you want to. So far out there with gun websites, Baron SVG was out there, Gizzard Gary, Patriot in the Dark, Vanessa Kitty. Guessing she's. Time to get up. Guessing she's staying up late. Usually I'll see her more towards the end of the chat where I'm thinking she's just waking up. The Saint and Vulcan Rumble. Good evening. Good evening. So I've got an open-ended, always difficult to answer question. I had somebody that asked me on a short of my Maverick 88 Security, is this a good gun for a beginner? They said they're 18 and 5'8". I know it's very tough because there's lots of questions you usually want to ask to try and fine tune an answer, but is there a way to give a short answer? I just told them it's affordable and reliable. And I forget what else I said, but just kind of gave a real generalized answer. Didn't say, yes, this is a great beginner gun. Oh, I think I also put, if recoil is a concern, then they also make it in 20 gauge. But so is there a good way to give a short answer to that, or do you always just need to find out more information.
I mean, as probably as good as any shotgun would be in that scenario.
Well, not specifically that one, but when people ask you, "Is this a good beginner gun?" Or
Gosh, that varies so much from person.
I know, is there a way to give a short answer? How would you give a short answer, or would you just
I don't think I would.
I'd say maybe it's like footwear, and if you're gonna go straight to shotgun, it's like saying boots. Like, yeah, you can own just boots, but think about that. Like, do you really want to own just boots? Boots are important for some things, but there's other times when boots just don't work. And that's sort of what a shotgun's like. You could wear it anytime. Like, you could use a shotgun for anything, but sometimes you're just going to be that guy wearing boots when everybody else is wearing sandals, or wearing boots and everybody else is wearing nice shoes, or wearing boots when everybody else is wearing gym shoes. So yeah, you could get a shotgun, but it's not the ultimate choice. It's like a choice, but it's not very many people's first choice. But I'd say maybe something like that.
Well, it
Or
wasn't my
maybe a car, to say, like, it's like buying a big pickup truck. Like, yeah, you can. There's nothing stopping you. It's legal, and but is it appropriate for everything? Like, sometimes a pickup truck is perfect, but often a pickup truck is like going to be seem kind of out of place.
in my scenario growing up, in a hunting family. That's one of the first things I learned how to shoot was a 12 gauge shotgun. So it wasn't until I was in my 50s before I even owned a handgun or something like that. So to me, shooting the handgun was a little more difficult than the shotgun because I'd never done it before. I'd kind of grew up with shotguns, but like I say, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on a person.
Mr. Bob Dabalina is out there. He said he'd try to qualify beginner. If they've never shot before, probably not. It's a good shotgun, but there is some bite to its bark. And
Are we talking about a firearm here or a real shotgun?
What's that?
Is this a firearm or a real shotgun?
Well, it's a real shotgun. It's basically a Mossberg 500, but shorter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a firearm. It's not even a shotgun.
Well, it is a shotgun. It's not the I mean, it has the stock. It's not the stockless handgun looking one. It's just shorter than the 500, supposedly geared more towards defense.
Okay.
I've got the 20-inch, and there's also 18.5-inch.
You mean barrel?
Yeah. I was just, it's kind of tough when I would like to give as good an answer as I can, but then you end up having to go back and forth in comments, which is kind of a pain. So I ended up just giving kind of a generic answer.
I think that's one of those things where theoretical or something, but maybe somebody who isn't yet experienced or familiar with something is going to demand that concept. Like, no, tell me the one gun that's made for everything. Like, I come up with analogies all day long, but it's there's going to be until you're familiar with it, you're not going to understand the nuance or the subtlety or whatever. So you're just going to be looking for an answer that doesn't exist. Is that the way to say it? Like, you're going to be looking for something that's ultimately difficult to answer because of all the variables we know about and the people that are asking the question don't get yet.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So if you don't know, then you don't always know what questions to ask
or how to ask. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt if they were, if it was somebody I was standing and talking to, then yeah, I would, you know, try to get to the core of what they want and where they're at. But I just, it's tough trying to go back and forth in a comment on it. And I was surprised to get that because it's just a short where I'm just holding it up and then there's some, it's got audio from a movie. So I was kind of surprised to get that question on that video. I'm glad they're interested in buying a firearm. Gunmetal Guy USA's out there. Good evening.
I noticed you skipped the bracket question. Is that because you didn't want to talk about the bracket since we're going to be starting brackets so soon?
Well, no, a friend borrowed the bracket. He had a last minute bring your own bracket party. So he borrowed my bracket. So I don't have it tonight.
This is the guy that brought it back and it was all full of dirt?
No. When he brought it back, it was sticky from candy.
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah. Vulcan Rumble said size of the person is important. Not necessarily. It's, in the million variables that come into play. I had a girlfriend she was 5 foot, maybe 100 pounds, and she could shoot a 44 Magnum. It was like a 6-inch, longer barrel, but she had no problem shooting 44 Magnum.
Whenever they talk about people's size, they always talk about skinny people or little tiny people. So what about if you're so fat you can't even touch your arms together? How are you going to hold a shotgun? You're so fat that you couldn't even clap. You know what I mean? Like you're so fat that your arms stick out from the other side. You can't do nothing about it. And now you want something to defend yourself. You can't pump a shotgun.
Well, I've never thought about that as related to firearms. That has
sizes.
Similar things have come up when I was teaching karate. I had a kid that he was so muscle bound, he couldn't touch his hands together.
That happens to me all the time because I got so many muscles.
Yeah. That definitely can be an issue sometimes. I'll say that probably because I'm not the largest person, because I am larger, then recoil usually isn't an issue for me. So I'm able to absorb whether it's a handgun or rifle, shotgun, or whatever. So there's a definite benefit that way. But there's, plenty of smaller people that can handle. You look at basically up through any war up through World War II. Most of the soldiers were tiny. Average height used to be, and I think this was worldwide, not just the US, but in the 80s, the average height of a male was 5 foot. God, what was it? It was only like 5'6". It was 5'6" or 5'8". And then you think about, if you've ever shot like a Mosin, those have a lot of kick, but people have been shooting the high-powered rifles for a long time.
You don't really shoot a rifle standing, from the shoulder. You normally lay down and put a rifle on the ground and then get up behind it with your whole body. You know what I mean? So,
well, with the Mosin, you pile up potatoes behind you for
that's a good
support.
point. But yeah, back in the day, you look at Dragon Man's always showing his mannequins. He's got a whole bunch of uniforms, so he has mannequins to put in the uniform, so they're not just folded up; they're standing there in 3 dimensions. And he's always like, "I got to take today's mannequins and chop them up," because people were smaller back then. They're shorter, and they didn't, these weren't as big. But I think that's to do with vitamins and the decent calibers. When you shoot a decent caliber growing up, you develop the strength and fortitude to be able to hold on to that caliber and shoot it. And then, generation after generation, we've become larger people than the rest of the world. That's not our fault. We're just a product of our decent calibers, where the rest of the world made that little tiny 9mm to knock them over, because everyone else in the world is so small. They're so little that the 9mm was efficient and works for them. But just saying.
Ozzy Osbourne's out there meowing at the moon. Yeah, I think a big part of it was just the availability of protein.
Well, shoot 145 into a whole squadron of Germans that were the old style Germans that 9mm was made for. That would just wreak havoc. 145 ACP would wreak havoc with them. They used to make buildings out of tinfoil and balsa wood because people were so small. That was plenty.
Well, if you look, the 45, 1911s were introduced. World War One basically ended trench warfare.
Yeah. Almost eliminated violence of all type, except for the 9mm violence that kept happening.
Well, there was also some 38 special violence.
That's just offensive use. But yeah, the country did get bigger. I think it has more to do more than just protein. I mean, protein's probably part of it, but what do you call it? Medicines and not dying when you're born, not women not almost dying when they have babies. You know what I mean? Like we have, and then how many of us went through, like how many generations of the United States went through having like gym in school, like recess, running around as part of the, growing up. So I just think we had for a long time, we had a good lifestyle or whatever, like a good opportunity growing up, right? Like as much as everybody hates school or whatever, we didn't have it like some of the countries where they get up and do calisthenics or nothing, but for a while we kind of did. So anyway, I think for a while there we had like a generational advantage. The rest of the world got torn up in the wars. They all decided to have the wars in their own backyard. So while they're coming back and just rebuilding, we're over here, we didn't have to rebuild nothing. We were just building. Anyway, I think there's quite a bit of factors to why the whole world got bigger. Did gravity get lighter? How do we know gravity didn't get lighter?
I don't know. Mr. Bob says Google says World War II average soldier height was 5'8" for U.S. soldiers. It was closer to 5'9". Current average is 6 foot even. And Ozzy said, I don't own any 45 AARP. I'm more of a 10mm guy. I think that's acceptable.
Yeah. Anything over the 4, you're good to go.
Yeah, Mr. Bob said, yeah, you can have both.
What you can't own both of is 9mm and a Happy Life. Well, at least no one's been able to pull that off yet. Look at the most miserable countries in the world, and their main caliber is 9mm. Just saying, it's not a coincidence.
Oh, 9mm was a German invention, and look at what they've done through the years.
Mm-hmm. Warm potato salad for one.
Sauerkraut.
I'm okay with sauerkraut.
Nah,
Sauerkraut is kimchi, isn't it?
no, it's rotten Nazi cabbage.
Where's Gizzard fall down on sauerkraut? The
Well,
kraut of sour.
I don't like it by itself, but if you put some wieners in it or some brats, it's not too bad.
I would not put my wiener in a sauerkraut.
I'll put some wieners in your sauerkraut if you want.
Wow. You guys ain't right.
Hey, you're the one that said it. We're just sitting here minding our business, and you say something like that in front of us. What are we gonna do? Nah, I hear you though. Do you like it warm? You ever eat warm sauerkraut? Put it on things that are hot?
Yeah, I prefer it warm, actually.
Oh, I was gonna say that's not my style. I used to put it on hot dogs when I was a little kid, but I don't know. I did that.
It's a not very often thing for me. I'll eat it 2 or 3 times a year, and then I don't want it anymore. So it's not anything I'm in love with or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, like, I'll buy a jar of it or something to make me think of it, and I'll buy some, and then, oh, yeah, I like sauerkraut. And then after a while, I'm like, what do I keep buying sauerkraut for? I'm sick of this.
Yeah, once you get done with the can, it's like, okay, I don't want any more.
Ozzy said 9mm is my cheap training round.
Did you say you had topics for tonight?
No. That was the only topic. I debating. I was kind of thinking about going through, not tonight, but in the future, going through each state and looking at their gun laws. But I don't know if that's just going to be too dry for everyone.
Super difficult. You could take one thing, I don't know, reciprocity. No, it's a dumb one. Constitutional carry. You know, you can do one thing and think about how boring that would be if you know, constitutional carry is kind of interesting. It's happening right now. It's on the move, right? Like you can't take concealed carry because every state already has concealed carry. You could take when the states got their concealed carry, because that was kind of interesting. It happened, you know, it ended in 18 or something. I know, but it all happened right in front of us, or when it wasn't 15. I don't remember when Illinois happened, but yeah, I think you're 100% right. Like most people aren't going to want to sit there and listen to any aspect of it. And if you try to pile them all on, good luck. You'll only get through like one state. It'll take you a whole show just to talk about all the different laws in one state. So you definitely have to pick one or two facets. And then by the time, you know, you get into like 3 states, everybody's eyes are going to gloss over. Like it's too tough a subject, I think.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of interesting just, you know, to learn about each state and the differences in each state. But, you know, like I said, it's kind of dry, and then it'll be kind of repetitive because you're going to run into the same things in multiple states.
And then they're subtly different. Ozzy saying, have we done that? Yeah, we did that for a while on Tuesdays. And it took 50, you know, essentially 50 episodes. But let's say you did 1 episode per state and you picked, I don't know, the 10 most important gun laws or something. They're going to change. So, you know what I mean? Like at some point you got to go, hey, let's redo New Hampshire because something changed there. So yeah, I think, I was going to say, unless you had like a visualization, if you had a little animation, I really think that's possible. Now it's a lot of work, but let's say you took the top 12, I don't know, you'd have to figure out what it is first. That'd be like another project to figure out what the most important things are. But are they, you know, there's the big things like concealed carry and constitutional carry, but then there's open carry. Is it true constitutional carry or permitless carry, whatever people call that? Is it uh, 18 to 21? Now that's the thing that they've fractioned off. Like, are people coming from out of state? Because there's a couple of states where it's only for people in the state, or there had been. So do you talk about the versions of constitutional carry that exist, or do you just act like constitutional carry is a thing, and all the states have flavors of it? So you know what I mean? Like, you can't even you can't. It's hard to pick just one aspect and start ripping through states. And well, whenever we did one state, we tried to figure out like 13 variables. And then I guess I was saying is if you had the time to one, do the research and then put that into something, or have somebody then tasked with making like a visual. I'm just going to say like what was that thing called? Schoolhouse Rock. It's not necessarily looking like Schoolhouse Rock, but the concept of a short, interesting presentation. So if you could come up with 12 characteristics and then come up with this like boilerplate, kind of presentation, how quick could you make that? Like Schoolhouse Rock was literally a whole commercial. It was like 2 minutes long, right? Singing about whatever, a bill or whatever. So you wouldn't have that kind of time. You'd have to make it, I mean, if you were going to do 50 shows in a minute, or 50 shows in an hour, you would almost have to do a 1 minute presentation with each state. And that would be horrible. Can you imagine watching something
tough.
50 presentations in an hour? Like, that's a marathon. So I just don't know if it's possible.
Even though it's only a minute, it would be tough to put the information into 1 minute.
Yeah, it'd be like a lawyer speed reading for like an hour, right? It would be horrible. So like I say, it would have to be some kind of visual thing, like, show a little something so that you get the eyes going. I don't know. I think the consumable way would maybe be to choose general things. Like, you got your constitutional, you got your ways to carry, you've got your who can buy, and that, because that's a chunk of laws on how you can buy and who can buy and the procedure to buy. And then there's a whole slew of laws on what you can own, like what's available, what's banned essentially. Man, there's so many laws. Then take storage law, there's red flag laws. These are all new, like, and then you get down to the dumb stuff, like, do you have to declare? Which is critical, right? Like, if you're traveling through the state and you wanted to do a comparison of the states for someone who's traveling, if you forget to tell them when you have to declare, that could be detrimental. It's super critical. And it's like one of the least important things, but at the same time, unless you're traveling, then it's super important.
I happened to I was looking at Alaska, kind of looking at their gun laws. And for declaring, it says in their law that, I forget how they put it, but basically, if you encounter a police officer, you have to tell them you're carrying anytime you encounter a police officer. I don't know if they enforce it, but
you're on one side of a courtyard, you see a cop on the other side. I have a gun.
I'm armed. Yeah, it's kind of neat. I don't remember. It's a section for kids, but it covers their gun laws. I thought that's the only state I've seen do something like that.
Wait, which state did that?
Alaska.
Oh, that's interesting. So, like, the same way that you'd be like, hey, don't lick that frog, or like, hey, don't eat that mushroom. Like, there's things you need to know about mushrooms first. Like, ask the Fish and Wildlife Department, and they'll give you a guide. It's like that kind of thing.
Something like that.
Huh. Or like an Eddie Eagle, I guess I should have just said. Where it's like geared towards kids, but giving them like leave guns alone type of advice.
Let me see.
Or it's Alaska, so it's probably like, oh, you found a gun, eh? Like,
it's under Alaska Kids Corners. Here, I can show you the page.
Oh, you found a gun, eh? Oh, it's only a 9mm? Just leave that where it is. Don't let a Wolverine get it. Oh, you
It's
found the gun. Throw it in a gold hole. I'm pretty sure Alaska's full of big holes full of gold.
but it's not dumbed down for like grade school kids.
Oh, okay.
But it's for some reason it's Alaska's.
Alaska's like, you know what kids like? Whole pages of words, like not even one picture. That's what kids like. They like to just read about safety. That looks boring as shit. Oh, there is a picture of Alaska at the bottom. Unless that's a curriculum for kids.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey kids, today we're going to read a form. Let's bring open the website and everybody read these bullet points.
Just trying to see if find that one part about disclosing.
In Alaska, they're like, first off, don't shoot 9mm. Use a caliber that can actually kill something up here. The 4 rules of Alaskan gun safety. Know what the target is, and then don't carry 9mm because we're not farting around up here. I bet you snow can stop a 9mm, like a big icicle or something.
Well, yeah, I don't know where that was about telling the cops.
And I'm assuming there's icicles hanging off of every tree in Alaska.
But well, in the northern part, it's a big state.
It's true.
Texans don't like to admit it, but you can fit like a couple Texas in Alaska.
Texas people, they're tough or whatever. They act like they have a big game. But the problem is if like they go north of Oklahoma, it's too cold for them when they run back to Texas. Do you think people that live in Texas are smaller than people that live in Alaska? Body-wise?
Well, there's more Hispanics, and I think they tend to be shorter, don't they?
I don't know. I don't think there's too many people in Alaska that were born and raised in Alaska. I'm guessing it's a bunch of people that moved there. So I'm thinking they probably came from all over. I don't know. I don't know Alaska. Never been there. But I figure when you have a place like that where you don't have to be born there, you go there intentionally, isn't that going to attract people that are hardier, that are more like, I don't want to say fit, but like more interested in having that lifestyle, so more willing to do all the stuff, including dealing with the weather and all that. I figure people in Maine probably deal with weather. You just never hear about people in Maine, so they don't complain about it, I guess. You never hear people in Alaska really complain about the weather either, though, do they? They might be like, oh, it's 112 degrees below zero. Anyway, what else is going on? Mr. Bob said, what about a video looking at the pitfalls of hypothetical cross country? I think that might be a way to do it. Like Bob and Sandy and Jose and Esteban want to go cross country on a road trip, and they all want to bring their handguns of choice in 45 ACP and 38 calibers. And here's why they can't, because of all the infraction, all the, what do you say? What do they call it of our
infringement?
rights? Yeah, all the infringements.
Oh, the only kind of tough part of that is each state's going to be a little different. So where's your trip? I mean,
yeah, no, exactly. Like it's kind of like the world of boron type of, like the what does boron do for us type of thing, and like not so fast, Timmy. If you went into that state with your firearm, you'd be breaking these laws or something like that. Like, Whoa,
Technically speaking,
Sally, you can't walk over there. That's
if you're traveling, the federal law is supposed to protect you and allow you to travel with a firearm, but the states don't.
well, but you
You
can
get
have the
into
right
like
of
New
passage.
Jersey.
Right, exactly. You can have the right of passage, but you still want to know what's the consequences if I deter from the highway, or what if I dawdle longer? What if I had the audacity to fill up my tank with gas or stop for dinner, or at one of the, what do you call them, lookouts, like some highways or something will have like a turnout where you can look and see like a view. What am I trying to say? Like a scenic view.
Yeah, scenic view.
And I mean, technically, some of these states like you can drive through because of the federal law, but you're not allowed to enjoy anything here. Like you stop and look at something, we're arresting you.
Well, that comes up when you're flying. So if you stop in New York and you're flying with a firearm, and if you change flights, then they can stop you. They will sometimes stop people and charge them.
I've heard that if you're flying over New York, they'll ground the flight, frisk you, and then let the flight take off again.
They said tell them to stay out of Illinois.
It's called land and frisk.
Vanessa Kitty said in the 1985 Brim Frost exercise saw the coldest temps ever in Alaska at one site. Yeah, the topics that I did have for tonight, you covered on your last chat. So,
I did.
yep.
What one?
I couldn't even tell you what I had thought of because
You mean on the weekly wrap up?
Yep.
Oh, well, I do a pretty good job of wrapping up the week.
You did. You wrapped it all up, and then it's like, well, shit. Now
But the good news is nobody watches that show, so you can talk about whatever you want off of that show. Nobody's gonna know.
I think more people watch that than watch this.
I get a bunch of haters that watch just so they can complain about stuff in the future, not so much because they're watching. They have like a big hater get together on Saturday, so they watch just so they know what to hate. But there's no actual viewers. Just do the show as a tax write-off.
Well, let me ask Gary a question if he's still there.
What would that be?
Well, on Wednesday, we talked about our first cars. So, what was your first gun?
Oh, snap.
First firearm or first handgun?
Well, a handgun is a firearm.
Yeah, but I owned a gun prior to that. Because my first gun was a Sears and Roebuck shotgun that my parents bought for me when I was a young teenager.
And then, well, you can tell us about that, but then also what was the first one that you bought? But
first one that I bought was a New England Firearms Partner 410 shotgun, single shot break action. Still have it. Bought that when I was 26. Bought it at Walmart for $70.
did you buy it for a specific reason, or was it just you saw it and you wanted it, or were you going to go hunting rabbit or something? Or
Rabbit and squirrel.
Did you take it and hunt rabbit and squirrels?
I tried to. Didn't run into too many, but I did attempt to. Let's put it that way. And since then, it's just been. I really enjoy shooting that thing. I wish 410 wasn't as expensive. I kind of fell in love with shooting 410 after I got it because it's so lightweight and everything. Nice thing about a single shot is it makes you get better at shooting the gun because you better make the first shot count because it's going to be a while before you can get that second shot off. But fun, it was fun gun.
How about you? Well, why don't you tell us about the one your parents gave you?
Well, that was like I say, Sears and Roebuck M200, which was basically, it was, from what I've read, made by Winchester. It was basically a 1200 Winchester that they made for Sears and Roebuck. It was a pump shotgun. I don't know the exact barrel length that it was, but I grew up, Dad was a bird hunter. He liked to hunt quail, prairie chickens, ducks, and stuff like that. So when I got a little older, he wanted to take me hunting with him. So that's why I got that, and we would go hunting together. And so it was primarily a bird gun. That's what it was for. And yes, I still have it.
That's cool. Do you ever take it out, or do you just look at it now and again?
I haven't for quite a while. Let's put it that way. Occasionally I'll take it out and shoot it because just for good memories and stuff. I still have Dad's too now that he's passed away. He actually had the Winchester 1200. So I got the real deal and I've got the fakey version that Sears sold. So his is a little fancier. But I still, that's what you learn on is 12 gauge shotgun. It's one of those things that takes you back in time.
How about you, G-Webs? What was your first?
My dad gave my ma a gun, and then she didn't want it, so they gave it to me when I was born. At least that's what I was told. Then I got many guns along the way. So,
Well, what was it?
Single shot 22, probably a Winchester. So it was a long time ago. So it was a one shot 22 lever action. So it's a lever action without a magazine. You can only put one round into it. You ever seen those?
Like a cricket?
No, a little bit bigger, but made for a kid, I suppose. It's made for a person, not for a kid. So it was not huge. It was a 22 lever action, so it wasn't huge. It wasn't the giantest gun in the world, but it wasn't like shrunk down for a kid. But it was, I don't know, maybe for camp or maybe for one of those galleries, maybe. I don't know what they would have made that for. But essentially you pull the lever and it opens up the chamber and you put one round in there and you close it. It's kind of like a breech. What do they call that thing? I forget what they call that old gun, but there was like the Spencer is like that. You pull the lever down and it opens the chamber. Like
a falling block.
Falling block, yeah. Thanks. Except it's still a lever action. It's just it's like a falling block, where in the way that it opens the chamber. Anyway, so I had that one, and I shot it like 5 times. I never shot it because it's super boring and slow. But every once in a while, essentially, my dad would just be like, "Okay, this is your gun." Out of the pile of guns that we had, the ones that I liked the most were then mine, or I would just claim them as mine. So as far as I knew, I grew up with dozens of guns. I don't remember what the first one was that I liked or that I took or I claimed or whatever. And then whenever I was 18, I woke up that morning and waited for the gun shop to open and bought my first shotgun moment. Literally the first moment. Not that I was legally able to, but that, reasonably able to once the shops opened. I walked in and essentially it was the first thing they did that day, if I remember right. But whatever, 870, plain old Express model, 18 and a couple hours old.
So did your dislike of shotguns start from there, or did it develop later?
Well, no. So then I had that shotgun, and so I've had that one for a long time. I've had shotguns before that too, and didn't like them. And then decided to buy that one for home defense and for everything. Because when you're 18, what else are you going to do? You can't get a pistol
Yeah.
yet. Back then you couldn't, and at least not from a store. And I wasn't going to carry around a rifle. There was no such thing as concealed carry back then. So, a shotgun, and then make it as short as possible. They didn't call them home defense guns back then. They would just call it like, I don't know, different kind of hunting gun. I forgot what they called it. Squirrel gun or something. Like a bird gun was a long barrel and a squirrel gun was a short barrel. Maybe a rabbit gun. Like if you're going to go shoot bird, they expect you to like sit there in a blind or boat or something, so you could have as long a barrel as you wanted because you had to shoot birds that are way up in the air. But I think they made the rabbit and squirrel shotguns because you were walking around, through woods and stuff. So they didn't want to make the barrel like 7.5 feet long. So they made it 20-ish, longer than it needed to be legally. But, kind of that was about the coolest thing we could come up with back then. I think I own that thing. I don't even know if I owned it yet. And I already bought a new barrel for it and Packmeyer pistol grip and rubber front. So I think I bought that all at the same time. So I immediately redressed it into Packmeyers and then immediately regretted the decision. You ever put Packmeyers on a shotgun?
No.
So you know the difference between Packmeyer and Hogue rubber?
I don't. I felt Hogues, but I haven't felt Packmeyer.
Oh, okay. Hogues feel like squishy rubber. Like you're not going to go around loving it, but it's at least you can squish it a little bit. It's like a hard rubber ball, right? It's like a racket ball. It's got some give to it. It's made out of rubber. Packmeyer is like your tire. Packmeyer rubber is like technically rubber, but it might as well be. I mean, it's real rubber. Like there's nothing soft about it. It's not whipped at all or whatever. I think Hogue whips their rubber and gets air in there, so it's more like a foam. Where Packmeyer is pretty much tire. Like it is hard rubber. So I like it. It's not sticky, but on a shotgun, it's there's no forgiveness there. Like it's almost like putting metal stock or metal grip on it. It's so hard. So, but I put a pistol grip on it, like a pistol grip and the Packmeyer. What do you call that part? The wood part on a pump. I guess you call that a grip. I don't know what you call that part. The pump the slider part. Change the wood out and put rubber on there, and it made it more narrow. Like the wood back on an Express in the old days was kind of frilly, like it was big. I don't know if you remember the Express wood on an 870. It's not little. Like it's all, I don't know what they're trying to do, but it's not little. So putting that Packmeyer on there made the gun a lot smaller, but it looked cooler, but it didn't make it shoot better. It was actually sleeker or whatever, but less comfortable to shoot. So immediately, like as soon as, and it's not like I never had a shotgun before, but that was the one I could do whatever I wanted to. And I immediately bought all that stuff, took it home, put it all on there, and then immediately kind of changed it around and put the wood back on. I had to modify the wood so that you could have it pumped and load it. Like when you'd open the action, open the chamber, the wood came back so far that you couldn't load anymore. So I had to no, that's not true. It was the other side. I put a side saddle on it at some point, and the wood would come back, and you couldn't open it all the way because the side saddle would get in the way. So I had to notch the handguard. Anyway, I played around a lot with that shotgun, and it was never my only gun. I've never had only one gun, but it was like, quote unquote, my go-to for a little while, and I dragged it around with me going places. And what did they say? If it's too big or if it's not going to be perfect, you're going to leave it, and then it's useless. And that's when I started separating myself from shotgun. And then if you've ever hunted with a shotgun, everybody talks about it, but you shoot something with a shotgun, you're eating pellets. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're eating pellets. They're gonna get in your mouth, and you're gonna chew on them. You're gonna bite them. And compared to a 22, like shoot a rabbit with a 22, shoot a rabbit with a shotgun, all day long. I'd rather eat a rabbit that you shot with a 22 because 22 goes in and out. You're not eating a 22 bullet later.
That was something that I had never thought about until I saw, it's either a TV show or a movie. and they were eating. It was probably pheasant or something, something they shot, and then they were spitting out the shot as they're eating.
Mm-hmm. And it's no big deal when you're used to it. Like, oh, I'm going pheasant shooting or something, like you're saying, like, or duck hunting maybe or something where you're going to get like 20 ducks and they're all going to have pellets in them, and that's just it. But if you're surviving or whatever, like, do you really want to be spitting out lead? I mean, I guess it's a thing to do.
Yeah, I've only ever touched 4 shotguns. 2 of them were the same model. The other 2, I'm not sure what they were. They
What?
were over
Maybe.
unders.
You only ever touched 4 shotguns ever, or when you were a kid?
Nope, ever. And I've only shot 2 of them.
Holy crap.
And they were both Maverick 88 security.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So if you shoot a shotgun that isn't okay, so if you shoot
no, well, I will say, I when I shot Larry's, the one I showed the picture of the other day, that would have been number 5.
I don't know what that one was.
The Ithaca. It was the Ithaca lightweight,
but
featherweight.
I don't know how many gizzard is shot already, but shotguns do have some recoil, and if you get like a single shot shotgun, like the recoil on that will knock most people over. Where like a semi-auto shotgun, you can shoot a lot of those all day long, because the recoil and everything, the massive springs, like, really absorb a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, as much as I don't like shotguns for home defense, they're interesting guns, and it's interesting. Like at Thunder on the Prairie or something, I never thought about that, but maybe if they keep doing it, then get a poll of everybody and see what people haven't shot before, because I never thought about that. But part of the experience of shooting a gun, like, let me shoot that gun, isn't just because I want to go around saying I've shot that gun before, but recoil impulse is a thing. Like, it is. I'm just going to use motorcycles. If you had 8 motorcycles in front of you and you said, well, I've driven a motorcycle before. Okay, well, did you drive a Harley Davidson? Did you drive a dirt bike? Did you drive like a World War II thing with a sidecar? Like, what kind of motorcycle were you driving? Was it a moped? Was it a massive giant Harley Davidson thing? Was it one of those race bikes? Like, every one of those, you're going to sit in it differently, and you're going to have like a different interface with the motorcycle. The motor is going to sound different in between your legs, right? You're going to have different helmet and shit on. Like, you put a race car or a race motorcycle helmet on a Harley, you look like an idiot, and it's probably harder to drive, right? You put like any kind of helmet on with an enduro besides an enduro helmet, and it's going to be hard to see because its helmet's so big. So there are some things where, unless you shoot them, you don't get it. But like, a lot of people look at a little single shot 20 gauge and they'll think, oh, that can't have much recoil. Look at how little that gun is. When in reality, that's like every bit of that recoil is going straight into your shoulder. They're like jackhammers. Like, those are some of the most annoying guns to shoot because they just smack you. And like a pump. I don't know why the angles or the math or something on the pumps just don't kick anywhere near as bad as like a single shot. And then an over under, it's kind of in the middle. Like, I don't know how they get rid of it. It's the angles or something, but something about the materials maybe. Like, anyway.
Garage Guy. Did I say hello to Garage Guy? If I didn't, hello, Garage Guy.
So anyway, that would be neat to have, like, I don't know, I'd have to think about it for a minute, but an assortment of the different ways that a shotgun can interface with you, or the recoil impulse, and then shoot it. Like, I always tell people, you think about an AR-15. It's an aluminum tube that has its mass that goes all the way from somewhere, like if you hold an AR-15 up to your shoulder, you're going to aim it and shoot it, no matter if you're left or right-handed. That center of mass, that the weight of the rifle, is the bolt carrier. That is going to go from like up in front of your face to somewhere around your cheek in an aluminum tube, and you're going to shoot that with a little tiny 5.56 probably, or some other little tiny caliber, popping that thing back and forth. And then if you shoot something like a 9 out of there, it's a different gun. You shoot a 22 out of there, totally different gun. You know that. But if you shoot a AK, now you're talking about a gun that's made out of like a metal taco with a bolt carrier that only moves like 4 inches or something and back and forth. And it's got a different gas system. So the way and the place that the gas is going to eject is different. You know, AR-15 blows gas into your eyeballs. Nobody thinks about that. But all of that is the recoil impulse. So, I mean, then you get in like what are those things called? The delayed axis, blah, 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 delayed something blowback.
Like,
That they just use. They have ball bearings and all kinds of shit that's happening to create the dwell. So all of these guns shoot differently. And then, so just in general, like the way they operate is different. But you start pulling the trigger more than once or shoot them full auto. And yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's the difference between driving like a Harley and a motorcycle, or like a enduro and like a moped. You know, they're all motorcycles, quote unquote, but they're going to have a massively different experience, a ride, and that's how it is with these firearms. So, like I say, figure out what the different shotguns are available, have them all like lined out, and let people just experience that. I never thought about that, and it's not like I've ever had I might have had all 8 of them in front of me at one time to shoot them and see the difference. But just over time, you're like, well, I'm never shooting that gun again. That's like somebody swinging a baseball bat into my shoulder. And then other guns, you're like, oh, I can shoot that gun all day. Gizzard, how many shotguns have you shot, do you think? Like different types of shotgun?
Oh gosh, over the time, well, different types. I've shot single shots, pumps, semi-autos,
Side by side, over under?
side by side. I can't recall if I've ever shot an over under or not.
There's a big difference. Like I say, it's you don't think about it, but
I think I may have once a long, long time ago, but I've shot many different shotguns over time. They're all fun.
and then if you count like a judge, like do you count that? Like, you know, do you count
Yeah,
the
I've never shot a
firearms?
judge. That would be
Wait,
fun.
what? What?
Yeah, I've never shot a judge.
I have
I've
shot a judge. G23
I've
Came
never
up.
shot a shockwave either.
brought his.
Wow. So what about Serbu? Remember the Serbus when they were the rage?
No.
But that's still shocking. You know what I'm talking about? Like little Miami Vice, tiny little 3-shot pump. You know, I mean, that's a whole nother level of like grab on and hold on to shoot that thing. Once you get used to it, you're like, oh, okay, it's no big deal. But people don't think about shooting tiny little shotguns. It's kind of like a mind fuck. Am I allowed to say that? Like you think like this thing's going to explode in my hand. And once you shoot it, you're like, oh my goodness, shotguns aren't nothing. Anyway, shotguns, they're interesting for sure.
They are
And
fun.
then you get the AK style ones, which I don't like that much, but again, totally different to shoot. The recoil's gone with those.
I
Ugh,
think
and then you
one
get
of my
into 410.
favorites. One of my favorites was one I shot at Thunder on the Prairie last year when we were doing the shotgun bowling, and that was a side by side. It's like a coach gun or something like that. Wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, that thing was fun.
Now they
I-
kick. Well,
I
were you putting it on your
didn't-
shoulder, coach gun, or just holding
Yeah.
it, coach? Okay.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Yeah, they had
One of the owners owned it, I think.
they had 2 shotguns, Maverick 88 Security, and then the coach gun. I did the Maverick, which was the same model as what I own, because I wanted to score well. So I didn't shoot the coach gun. I was,
missed
you know,
out.
I was familiar with the Maverick, so I stuck with the Maverick.
And then when you get into shotgun shooting, so there's the recoil impulse, like your physical, you know, our human being interface with the thing. You know, you're either going to wrap around it or you're going to hold on to it or something. But then you get into how you shoot. And like most people go to the range and they shoot a pistol or a rifle while they're sitting there, and sometimes when they're standing there. And if you're super hardcore, you go out to where you don't even have a range and you just do what you want. And you might even draw your gun. You know what I mean? Like you might even put out your own targets that are in a semicircle and shoot from left to right or something. Like you might actually turn around and shoot or something. Like, you know, if you go to a class or something and super high end deluxe class, you might actually walk around and shoot a gun. But with a shotgun, like right off the bat, like very often, if not exclusively, people are picking up a shotgun and shooting at things that are running all around, like flying in the air, jumping around on the ground in front of them. The targets themselves, like not critters, but targets, can do all of that and more. And that part of shotgun shooting, as lame as I think the machines are compared to other machines out there, there's nothing like the experience of shotgun shooting. I go ahead and not take that away from anybody. You know, my bitching about shotguns is usually because people wanted to use them for home defense. And my bitch is, you know, why would you throw a handful of pellets in your own house? They're a big pattern. Like, it just makes no sense. But if you're going to throw a big handful of pellets at something that's moving, makes all the sense in the world. That's why they made shotguns. So the way that people shoot shotguns, like 5-stand and sporting clays, I mean, I don't know if there probably could be funner stuff, but not yet. Like, there's not the infrastructure that already exists for sporting clays and for 5-stand and for skeet and for trap and for all the other sports. That infrastructure already exists. You can just buy a shotgun and go participate. And they need you to, because all those sports are dying. But all the bitching I do about shotguns, I don't want to take that away from them. They are the most. Are they the most fun guns to shoot? They're the most fun guns to pick up and just go shoot this afternoon. You know, like you can, like I say, the infrastructure is there. Almost everywhere in the country, you can grab a shotgun and go find some place to shoot moving targets, and you can't do that with pistols at all. You can figure out a way to shoot moving targets with a pistol, but it's going to be tougher. You're not going to have as much fun, and you're going to have to do all kinds of hurdles and backflips to create a place to be able to do that safely.
So what you're saying is buy a shotgun.
No, but
I think I've heard that before. Yeah, shotguns are fun.
they're definitely separate. You know what I mean? Like handguns are separate, 22s are separate, rifles are separate, and shotguns are separate for a reason.
Fukuyt. Fuku YT. It's out there. Good evening. Yeah, well, sitting here while you're talking, and I'm thinking, well, if I take someone to the range, I should have a smaller caliber shotgun, so I can introduce them into shotguns with something smaller. And then I'm realizing, no, I don't need.
Yeah, you say that. You say that, but that 410 of mine, that's a single shot, kicks just as much as my 12 gauge pump does. So what he said about, pumps are easier to shoot sometimes in single shots, he's absolutely right. Yeah. So if you're going to go with a smaller gauge shotgun, you definitely want something that's also like a pump action or something that can help absorb the recoil if that's what you're after. Just keep that in mind.
Who makes those black ones that are single shot break opens? They're like polymer. They have like goofy stock on them. Oh man.
Savage? Is that what you're
maybe? But essentially they are big enough for 10 that they take away some of the, the weight of it takes away some of the recoil, and then you're holding on to it so hard that you're taking, your arms are taking some of it. But anyway, yeah, I agree with Gizzard. It's like a catch-22. You get a small shotgun, it's going to hurt. You get a big shotgun, and it's a giant gun, and people are scared of it. They need to make a cricket that's 410. That'd be fun. Nobody would want to shoot it, but it'd be fun.
I think they do.
Well, they did. Winchester made them back in the old days for like shooting rabbits and stuff, but I don't think they make them anymore. Like you said, they're kind of hard to shoot. The recoil still exists. Bolts don't have anywhere to put it. Like the bolts, the energy just went straight into you. That whole like hard times make soft days, and soft times make soft men, and soft men make hard times. That's because of back in the day they just you were the recoil pad.
And
You made-
another
they
thing
made
you want to keep in mind is because you have so many variables. The great thing about a shotgun is the kind of ammo you can shoot through it, because you can shoot anything from very small pellets to really large pellets to slugs. So,
good
but
point.
the recoil is going to vary on those too. Slugs tend to have very heavy recoil, and then your target loads, like you would shoot skeet or something like that, are going to have probably the least. So if you're going to take a new shooter out, you'd want to stick with the low power target loads.
I think I'd have to look. I don't. I know I don't have any slugs. I've got mostly birdshot and double aught, like 9 pellet double aught.
And then there's different lengths of shotgun shells too: 2.5, 2 3/4, 3-inch, magnums, non-magnums. So. And then there's even the little mini shells now, but I think those are primarily for your for the little mini shotguns. Those
No,
oh,
not necessarily. But for any time you want to have more capacity and you don't need all that power. So for target shooting or shooting little stuff.
it might be an option too. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I always took them to kind of be like going from a magnum to a special.
I think of it more like that, but to like the extreme of like we want to go shooting or we want to go practice, and we don't need to show a bunch of energy downrange. We need to do the manipulations, or we need to do the the other stuff involved. The target acquisition and the breathing and all that. Like you can do all that more, but yeah, there's probably lots of reasons. They don't work in every gun though, so they're not like universal or anything. The guns are made for long shells, so unless a gun happens to work, very few guns were made to work with them, so they're kind of a novelty. But along those lines, you got all kinds of specialty cartridges. I don't even know if you mentioned, but like Gizzard was pretty much talking about like the common menus. But if you really want to get exotic, there's everything from rock salt to dimes to crazy stuff you can put inside. Think of like those dragon breasts that shoot white phosphorus or something out of them. Like shotguns allow you to do all kinds of stuff that no other
You get
gun
the
can do.
defensive loads that have like the disc inside of them.
Yeah, they can get super nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you're saying with some of the shot is almost like pepper. Like it's so small that it's just a whole nother. They're neat.
That's a great thing about shotguns. They can be about anything you want them to be. Buy a shotgun.
For hating shotguns.
Well, I just want a shotgun, and then it's like, oh, but then I wanted to do this. Well, I kind of need a different shotgun to do that. Okay, now I have 2 shotguns, but then what? I like shotguns. What if I want to do? Oh, I need a 3rd shotgun to do that, and then I just need 1 more shotgun, and then I could kind of do everything. But I learned about something new. So now
For
I have
hating
5
shotguns,
It's a rabbit hole.
you're doing a great job selling them.
Well, this is the problem with them. The problem with them is their diversity and their usefulness. Like they make it, you start thinking, oh, shotguns can do everything, because they kind of can, but there's like 1,000 shotguns to do 100 jobs. So unless you want 1,000 guns.
Ozzy said he has the Bond Arms in 410 45 Colt, the Derringer.
And for all these things, again, when it almost in YouTube, it almost always comes down, and in 2024, it almost always comes down to, what do I use in my, going down the hallway for a bad guy? And like, so you're going to non-identify somebody way down your house and then shoot a whole handful of pellets at them. Take out your pictures and all the things that you felt were important enough to put on the wall. Anything sitting on the counter, your cell phone, I don't know, iPad or whatever, anything that's behind that guy. I'm assuming it's a guy breaking in your house.
Unless you've got a room that's a good 35 or 40 feet long, you're probably not going to have that much of a spread, but I know what you're saying.
Well, no, I think you got hallways. Don't forget about hallways.
Well, true.
and garages and stuff. People don't think about they got enough. I mean, I hear you. If their person is right there, then none of this applies. And that's where, like I say, that's the problem I have with them. And nobody puts slugs in there to home defense. Like
I
people
would
don't
hope
think about
not.
that. No, I hope they do though. That's what I'm saying. Like the person needs to be stopped, then stop them. But you don't need to take out your own TV in the process. But all that being said, you need two hands to shoot a shotgun. So as soon as you start getting into the practicality of it, there's a reason we don't use them at all in war. And it's not the Geneva Convention. It's because the shells are huge, they're unnecessarily large, and you can only carry a finite amount of them. And usually the guns are two-handed. Like you have to fiddle with them to get them moving because of those cartridges.
They used to use them for trench warfare quite a bit.
Well, but it's not like they issued them. There'd be some people whose task was to go check out a trench, and they would use them for that task. But as soon as it came back to fighting, you drop the shotgun. We use them for breaching doors, yes. But as soon as you're done, it's on a bungee cord and you're letting go of it. They're useless for almost everything. And it's, again, because you can only cram, if you're lucky, 5 rounds into one, practically, unless it's a stupid AK one. And then you got these giant mags sticking out of them. But the loadout for a shotgun person is like dozens of rounds. And it's not because they're so heavy, because they don't really weigh that much. It's because they're massive. They're just too dang big for anything practical. When you've got a 308, when you've got 5.56, like they're just too big practically.
How you doing, Barbecue?
Got a bad headache.
Uh-oh.
But other than that, all right. Did not mean to fall asleep at 1:15 when I did.
Well,
11:50 or no.
I signed up for a new
Pacific.
system where you get calls ahead of time so that you don't miss the show. It costs $1,000 an episode, but I don't miss the episodes anymore.
It'd be worth it. But going back on what G was talking about real quick, if somebody was breaking my house or something, the last thing on my mind is my TV or my photos on my wall or something like that. All that stuff can be replaced. So if I chose a shotgun to be my most formidable choice for home defense, like there's a reason for it. Like if I'm getting ready to blast somebody and I'm going, you know what, I might hit that photo on the wall or I might hit the TV. Is my life really in that great a danger?
No, I'm not talking about that. You're creating this. That's a 9mm argument.
No, I'm not.
You take
No,
some
it's not.
specific
No, it's
argument
not.
because you're talking about like those
No,
shotgun.
you literally
those,
just
like,
used the scenario of somebody breaking into your house.
Yeah, but you said that you're gonna you're gonna have like 8 guns and you're gonna choose one. Like you decided what to put out. So if you decide to put out a shotgun, then you're deciding to put out those consequences. If you decide to put out an AR, you're taking out the issue and not your TV. You decide to put out a pistol, you're taking out the issue and not the TV. That's all I'm saying. Like, don't prep a shotgun. It's that easy. You don't have to make the decision when the guy's breaking in. I'm saying know that that's an issue. So just prep a gun that's useful there.
Yeah, and then so you make the argument that you could have to worry about pass through your walls if you go with the AR. What if you have to worry about more than one assailant?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going with a handgun, like there's no perfect choice.
No, there's not. But the shotgun's the least perfect. But no, I agree with you. I don't agree with any of the over penetration stuff. That's anti-gun internet bullshit. Where's the instances? Where's the anti saying you can't have powerful guns because of pass through? Like if there was any issue with pass through in reality, we'd know about it. That's theoretical internet argument.
I'm not talking about pass through like through a person. You're far
no, I'm talking about like through the wall or through the window and stuff like that. Like that I don't, again, like if that's just we know guns and we know what they can do, but in reality, where do you see guns coming or bullets coming through windows out of nowhere? It's just, it can happen, but anyway, there's I'm not a big fan of the over penetration thing. I'm not as scared of that. I'm the same way. I can blow that off the same way people blow off my concern about destroying everything in your home when you're trying to help get rid of a burglar. But anyway, I think it's, do you choose what you're going to set up? And if you don't put a shotgun there, you put a rifle there, you're done. You put a lever action there. You don't have to put an AR there if you have a problem with it.
Yeah, you missed how G-Web spent the last half hour explaining why shotguns are so great.
They're
Making
interesting.
No, I heard.
a
I've
good
been
argument for
listening.
why they were great.
I've been listening, just been trying to wake up, and then I grabbed a Monster because I figured this headache isn't going away, and
Look at that.
figured see if some caffeine would help remedy it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not falling back to sleep either. So
Shotguns are so boring. They put him to sleep, even though he's drinking a Monster. That's how boring they are.
no, the problem was they weren't putting me to sleep. It was your great salesmanship and your comparison of motorcycles and the different helmets that you wear when riding them.
So how many shotguns do you own, Guns of Barbecue?
Oh shit!
Lots?
I could go over and count right now, but that'd still take a little while.
Well, I can ask you the question: what was your first gun, and then what was the first one you bought with your own money?
My first gun I received when I was 9 after my grandfather died. That was my Model 99 Savage and 300 Savage. Then if you want to count, does just doing work for a family member count as, and then receiving a gun in exchange count as yes?
Yeah. Otherwise, you could have said, like, I want a dirt bike, or like, I want fireworks. Like, you
Terrific.
chose a gun.
I say then that one is, I'm not even sure of the model or anything because it does not actually have a model listed on it, but it is a double barrel 12 gauge side by side Springfield, and the only real identifying mark on it says patent 1915.
Do you still have it?
Oh yes.
Do you still shoot it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I used to take it out small game and all the time.
What did you hunt for?
Anything that was dumb enough to cross my path, really. Mainly squirrel and rabbit. But if the random grouse or pheasant would have been willing to come in to range, I would have gladly taken them as well. But no, just squirrel and rabbit were the unlucky foes typically.
What? So, out of all your shotguns you have, do you have a favorite?
Ooh.
Same question for you, Gary, after he answers.
I have one that I wish I'd have never gotten rid of. If I had this, it'd probably be my favorite. And I would love to either get another one just like it or get this one back. And that would be I had a 870 Super Mag in Realtree camo. It was one that they would sell at Walmart. And from my understanding, it was just like a Walmart edition. But it was a really, really sweet shotgun. Really, really enjoyed that thing. I had Hunter Specialties Undertaker XT choke tube on that, and I had that shotgun set to where I could kill a turkey at 60 yards with it. If I had to choose one that I owned, though, you know what? I was overthinking it. If I had to choose one that I own, it's my Mossberg Shockwave.
Why do you like it?
It's just a really fun gun. Yeah, even just kind of hip shooting it, I am very accurate with it. I had a nuisance rooster last year that I really didn't feel like having to rip out of the coop in the middle of the night, which I ended up having to do anyways. But so I was taking some shots at him in the backyard, just hoping to hit him in the head and have it be done. And like, I was right there. And when you're trying to hit a running chicken in the head with a hip shot, that's not a easy task. And I was close every single time. Like I said, I was doing it with that shockwave, and I got him once in the back of the neck, and I was using double-aught buck, and that friggin' rooster rolled down to the friggin' ditch, and I was like, all right, got him. And the girls are like, yay, because like I said, this rooster was a son of a gun. And sure as crap, he come running up out of that friggin' ditch, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. And at that point, I said, nope, no more. I was like, I'm just gonna have to rip him out of the coop in the middle of the night. I thought for sure I must have missed him, until that night. I had my daughter go out, hold the flashlight for me so I could find him in the coop, and she's like, he looks like he's bleeding. I was like, bleeding? I was like, she's like, yeah, it looks like right on the back of his neck, which confirmed to me, like, oh no, I hit him. He was just a really tough bird, which also makes me think that with that short barrel on that shockwave, you are losing quite a bit of power with that, because after I got to look at him up close, after I put him on the stump out back and chopped his head off, it was a direct hit. So either he was just one tough cock, or like I said, that there is a fairly significant power loss with that short barrel. But like I said, it's a really, really fun gun to shoot.
How about you, Gary? What do you have a favorite? What was your favorite?
That's a tough one. I mean, obviously the first one that my parents gave me is kind of a, from an emotional standpoint. And the one I've shot the most, definitely. My dad's, because, pardon me?
Sentimental.
Yeah, sentimental. And also along those lines, my dad's, just because it was my dad's. The rest of them, I mean, I enjoy shooting them all, don't get me wrong, but it'd be a toss-up between those two. So, that's why.
G Webs, do you have one that you liked? Did you have a favorite?
Oh yeah, I mean, own or just in general, the AA-12 is pretty awesome, but this is the one that I like a lot. Can I play the video? It's 2 minutes long. I don't know how much you want to watch of this.
Sure, go ahead.
So it's a Winchester 1897. This is like a hunting version of the military one. This is a video from 12 years ago, it said. That's my AR. And then This is what I used to film on back in the olden days. And I
You're
had my
not going to
truck.
copyright strike me, are you?
Yeah, that's the whole point of this. I'm going to sue you. But I started it out doing a little behind the scenes there.
We're out here doing a
So
bit of a
then-
review on it.
It opens
This
up.
is a model
It's a slide
1897
action,
Winchester.
actually.
It's a 12 gauge. These were, well, models like this were used World War One and World War II. Neat feature. You make sure that it's empty, of course, which it is. Then you can go up to the front of the mag tube, push in that detent and move it over, lock it again, and then when you move it forward, the pump and the magazine tube come up. It twists on these cams, and you've got two pieces here.
That's cool.
So when I'm playing with this, this is aluminum and plastic, right? This is all plastic with some steel. This is all steel with this wood, and this is, I don't know what the wood is. Barbecue, you know what wood Winchester used? Like it's oak or elm or something. I don't know. What kind of wood it is.
I don't think there's any one particular. A lot of companies use walnut, but I mean,
but essentially hardwood. Like this isn't. This is wood that is strong and it's fairly light, but it's strong is the main thing, and it's just the feel of these guns is. I mean, I don't know what to call it. Like the fiddleness factor or whatever. Like fiddling with an AR, it's aluminum and it's plastic and it's essentially milled. You know, it's like there's nothing stamped on it, so it's a pretty interesting gun to fiddle with. But fiddling with I don't know how to explain it, but you can kind of tell from the noises. And if you've ever picked up one of these guns, the fiddling with it is the fitment, I guess, of the parts is just another level. Like people cared about what they were doing back there. I mean, the designs were more complicated, so they kind of had to. And this is a successful one, so you know it was the cult of whatever, like the all of the best features of that Winchester had come out with, like made this one so popular. This one's a hunting one that just has the features of a real trench sweeper, like Izard was talking about, but this is the cousin of a. I couldn't afford a real military one. If I could, I wouldn't play with it and shoot it like I do with this one. This is just a cut down hunting one. I don't know if I say anything else in the video that's worth anything.
Makes it real easy to stow, to carry. Of course, it cannot be loaded like this. There's nothing stopping the shells from just pouring out.
Look how young you look.
Back together.
Said, look how young you look.
This was 12 years ago.
You just bring the barrel assembly up, lock it into place, lock it down, give it that twist, lock the pin,
This is Browning, right? He invented all this shit,
and
I'm
you're
pretty
back in
sure.
business.
But the feel of this gun, it just feels like old and cool, and there's just
So that's
screws
a
in it
quick
for no
look
reason.
At the Winchester model.
See these screws over here? I mean, these are to keep the pieces together, but they just don't bother with this kind of stuff nowadays. This is what being a gunsmith is all about. You start looking at these kind of things.
1897,
It's got a hammer.
12 gauge, slide action,
So it's slide action. It's not really a pump.
shotgun.
1897, before the stupid 9mm was even thought about, I believe, right? So that remains, and then it's got a goofy. So if you want to think about it, this gun, I don't know when it was made, but it's old, right? And then somewhere along the line, somebody was like, you know what we'll do? We'll put one of these, I forget what they called that.
Well, that's one thing. As we were talking about, you guys were talking about the shotguns. I was thinking about with the recoil pads. Is that going to adversely affect your butt stroking people?
That particular one is so hard and old that it's not doing anything. It's extending the butt out a little bit, but it's not cushioning or anything. The ones that like slide over that are new and are cushioning, yeah, like you're essentially putting a boxing glove on your butt of your gun. But the good news is you don't do that very often, like maybe in a movie or a last cage situation, but you don't want to let your bad guy touch your gun ever, and you don't want to break your gun. So you're not going to be striking anybody with your gun for the most part, unless you got a bayonet on it. You can let him touch that if you want.
Larry Knopf is out there. Good evening.
But as I was looking for that video, because I couldn't remember what it was, it's an M1897, and 12 years ago it was 103 years old, so it's 100 and going on 120 years old at this point. But when Haas was around back in the 12 era, I think he came around. And he was around for a couple of years. There, you know how people do these, like, let's all buy this gun and do something to it. That wasn't new. We used to do that back in the day. So a bunch of us bought a single shot 12 gauge, right? Who makes the single? New England? No. Who makes those single shots that are cheap? But anyway, we all bought cheap single shots and then turned them into survival guns. And I've got one of those that's, when you just talk about being a fun, interesting gun, having a tube with, well, and then Short Line gave me a set of chamber. What are those things called? Where you put in it's essentially a shotgun shell that's made out of metal, and then it's got like a 38 caliber chamber in it, or it's got a 22 chamber in it, or it's got 45 chamber chamber adapters, I guess. So I got a bunch of chamber adapters for a single shot 22, and you can put 12 to 20, and then a 20 to 410, which is also 45 ACP. Sorry, also 45 Colt. And then you can put a 45 to 38 in there sleeve, and then you can put a 38 to 22 sleeve in there, if I remember right. So now you have a 12 gauge that can shoot 20, 410, 45, 38, 22. And it's one shotgun shell made out of metal that's made out of, it's like a Russian doll thing, you know, they just keep fitting inside of each other. So that was a pretty neat kind of thing to do with a shotgun, like shit hits the fan and all that. Then there's the firearms. So they're not shotguns, but Barbecue was just talking about his. But what if you get a lever action version of that and you're talking about a Terminator 2 gun, right? Useless. Hate that gun. But that's another arm of 22 or of shotguns, right? We talked about the Cerbus, the little tiny 3-shot pumps. Amazing fun. I know a couple of people with those. They're useless, but they're for breaching. They're great for breaching. Like you put a couple of breaching shells in there and you have some more, and then you can take out hinges and door locks with them. They're great for that, really. They're like a tool. But for a shotgun, super fun. Try shooting trap with a 3-shot thing that the barrel isn't even as long as the normal pump, right? Like you can totally shoot shot with them. Barbecue's talking about trying to kill something. That might be difficult because only 2 or 3 pellets are ever hitting the thing. But when you're trying to get skeet or clay targets out of the air, totally fun, totally doable. And any people that say you can't do it have never done it before. But it's almost the same as shooting a regular shotgun. It's super fun. And I'm not even getting into the old stuff. Like there is so much old stuff. And then the AKs, which I don't like and I don't condone, but it's a whole nother branch of them. They make
I still wish I would have bought that one that I came across.
I just it was a dumb gun and you dodged a bullet on it.
But it was cool looking. Yeah, it was a good price.
And it is an AK. They are fun to fiddle with. And they're almost the same dimensions for whatever reason. But then you get your KSGs, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but they're neat, right? And then there's a more fun one, the ASG or something, where it has the rotating 4-barrel, 4-tube magazine underneath. So the KSG is 2 magazines next to each other, like in a triangle underneath the barrel. But the first one I seen was SHOT Show 2008, where they took 4 magazines, put them where a pump would be, right, where the pump action magazine would be, but made 4 magazines down there. And you rotate the magazine like a revolver. And then later on, Cry made one about 5 years ago. Anyway, so there's those shotguns that are neat. And then Judges. And I'm still missing a ton, but shotguns, I mean, they run the gambit. Oh, I was going to say Derringers too. But there's quite a few people making or who have made Derringers over the years that are 410 and probably even bigger just for fun. And that's a thing, like shooting snakes and rats and shit. Having a Derringer that can shoot 410, that's a practical thing. Oh, you know what? I should probably mention this. Have you guys thought about having healthcare? Let's talk healthcare. So in 2012, I drove around and we went to Tromix out of Tulsa, and he invented this little thing back in the old days. And then everybody figured out how he made them and then started making them. But he's the guy that spent all the time figuring out where to cut them and how to move the gas systems. These are AKs, but they're not AKs. They're shotguns, so they shoot differently, and their gas system is a lot different. So he spent some time tweaking them in the early 2000s until he got this Tromix kind of model down. And then, like I say, everybody kind of figured out where, just measured off of his and made their own versions. But this is the guy that put in the time. He didn't make a ton of these, but when you start talking about a crank version of a shotgun, it's hard to hate them. I can still hate it because I've been able to shoot it, and I know how much trouble it is to create and how much cost it is. But when you look at it, I can understand why people think it's pretty badass. But look how big that magazine is. Like, everybody's looking at how badass the gun is. You're not looking at like that 17-foot long magazine that only has 20 rounds in it. But it does look cool. So what do you think? A crank AK with modern parts on it like this? Yes, no? I did a lot of the cut editing back in the day. Here, I'll leave it sit on there. Yes, no? Folding stock? What is this? A palm grip of AFG, and then the Magpul stock I think he had on it.
I don't know. There's a lot going on there, definitely.
Streamlight on the side. You can turn on and off with your offhand. And then he's got H&K style sights on it. And a crazy, aggressive thing on the front. That's a Tromex trigger guard. And I don't know, maybe a Tromex, top. I call this a motorcycle charging handle. I don't know. It looks like that's what motorcycle gangs used to put on their AKs. Would you guys take this one? Do you have any idea how much this thing costs? How much do you think this costs? One off.
Don't have a clue.
Makes them one at a time, handmade. Has to take a regular Sega and chop it down into this. I think they were like $1,200 or something back in the day. I don't know if they're any different now. Maybe they were more than that. That picture used to get a lot on Instagram. That used to be the Instagram recipe. Gun at an angle, a couple of rounds next to it, and then I would throw a watermark on there. That gun's fun to hold. It's fun to play with. It's kind of fun to shoot, but it's not that fun to shoot. Anyway, shotguns, they go all over the place. There's a lot of them. I just went to my channel and typed in shotgun, and because I couldn't remember what the name of that. I kind of figured it was a Winchester, but I didn't want to assume nothing. So I just did a search for shotgun, and I've done a lot of shotgun videos over the years. It doesn't give me a results of it, but I guess I've done some shotgun videos. Oh, and the only other thing I guess well, not the only thing. Another thing we're missing is the stainless steel Marine shotguns. Like, not Marines like Marines, but Marines like boats.
I like the look of those.
Yeah, I mean, they're neat.
That's what my Shockwave looks like.
Oh, it is? Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, when I won the Shockwave at a gun raffle for the local FOP. It was one of the floor guns, and when I went to pick it, because the one that they had there was ugly, and there's so many different finishes on the Shockwaves, and when I went to pick it up, I was like, so is the only finish available the one that you guys had there, or can I choose any finisher? Like, oh, we've got like every finish available. You choose whichever one you want. It's like, no freaking way. Awesome.
Well, I was gonna say I found a listing for the Tromix Sega 12 for $3,000, but they're out of stock, so I don't know if you can find them anymore.
Oh wow. Here, show this again. This is Fiocchi, I think, did this. Yeah, Fiocchi did this. These are 12 gauge tracers.
Can't. Oh, are you? Oh, you're showing a video. I thought you were holding it.
Oh, but that's just essentially a light stick that's tiny, and it's got I don't know what the metal's for. I forget. Maybe just to shoot it down the thing. But anyway, as it shoots, it lights, and then you're shooting that thing. I thought that was cool as hell. I wish I would have got a box of those. But you ain't shooting that through no rifle. I got a couple of those in my shotgun collection. He gave me a couple. I can't remember what year that was. Anyone?
Did that?
Holy crap, 13 years ago. It was 2011. No wonder I can't remember it.
It seemed. How long does that light last? Because it seemed to go out. Is it real fast, or had it been lit for a while?
And that's a shitty edit. Like, I'm not good at editing videos. He had one that he opened. He snapped it with his mouth or whatever. That one would probably stay lit. It's just like a light stick. It probably stays lit for like 12 hours. But
really?
the bright part doesn't last very long. But yeah, you shoot them and then they're going to be out there glowing. I want to shoot them straight up. I want to see what happens when you shoot them straight up. They can't hurt that hard when they come down. If you got like a roof or something, you're probably fine. They're made out of a light stick. There's nothing extra in them. There's like that washer on there. But maybe not straight up, you know what I mean? Like up high. And then, I mean, you can't put a parachute on there, but it would be neat to see, you know, how fast they come down. But anyway, I think they're just going to be laying out there for a little while. Now, the thing is, they're not a full light stick. They're tiny. So they're probably like the kind of the equivalent of those. You ever use the ones that you put on fishing lures? Little tiny light sticks that you crack? They're probably like that, you know, like they have a shorter life, but it's still hours. It's still for a while. So essentially in that video, he pops one and then he shows me a dead one. And that's what I was fiddling with, is like an old dead one. It wasn't like they went dead in like moments or whatever. It was bad editing.
When I was a kid, my cousin and I, we would take a slingshot and shoot rocks straight up because you can hear them when they come down. But we would stand there as they came
under
down.
trees and stuff, you know, not get hit. And, you know, unless, well, it depends on what you're shooting to. If you're shooting like marbles, I wouldn't waste ball bearings, but marbles we'd waste. You can kind of tell where a marble's going. Like, it's pretty consistent. Rocks can be less consistent.
But we also one time tied fishing line to darts and to see who could throw them highest in the tree. And then we used the fishing line to pull them out of the tree.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
smart.
it was great until I lost one. Yeah, I pulled it and then it couldn't find where it went. Then I looked down, it was sticking out of my calf. It hit me in the back of the calf. I never felt it. Yeah, and it didn't bleed or anything.
Well, I've seen muscle dudes throw darts at each other. Like, once you get enough muscle, you can throw a dart at yourself and it doesn't really kill you or anything.
Barbecue. Mr. Barbecue. Hello. Is there anything you want to plug?
The other night, I began building a website.
Ooh.
It's for the photography stuff. So I've got a do more work on it, but that will be coming. I swear I'm going to start making content. Like, either the weather hasn't cooperated, or then my friggin' mic is missing because Slider, he's 6 now, and he likes to do pranks, as he calls it. He and the cutest thing is he will come up and say, "Dad, I'm going to do pranks." I'm like, "Okay, bud." And then I'll just, I'll find like the Q-tips hidden in with the toilet paper, or you name it. Like, stuff will just be randomly misplaced. I'm still looking for my USB drives that I save photos to for people when they want to get photos from me. I'm probably gonna have to buy another pack of those. That's gonna be $20. That sucks, because he doesn't remember where he puts these things either. Luckily, I did find my lapel mic though, so like I said, videos will be coming. It's just I've got a little slightly terroristic 6-year-old that, as he likes to say, do pranks. So
Well, that's better than like I did a prank. I set the barn on fire.
absolutely. I mean, but even that's not as bad as like hiding the television remote. So,
Well,
but
we will look forward to when your website's up and ready to go, and you can let everybody know.
thank you, and I appreciate the invite.
Oh, hey,
Hey.
while we're speaking, you do have a couple Instagram pages, channels, whatever they call them,
Oh,
that
yes.
you do your photos on. What if you can you do? Are you on your phone or on your?
I am on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a loser. So if anybody's interested in checking out some of the work that I do, there is a Blind Guy Photography Facebook page. If you want to look on the Facebooks and check stuff out there, I post most stuff there. I find Instagram to be kind of useless, just because it doesn't get a lot of traffic. Like, it was originally designed for photos, and you post photos there, and it like I even tried to look for photos on Instagram, and it's awful. But yeah, if you want to go check out the photos on Instagram, also it's Blind Guy Photography on Instagram, and then there's also 1791 Photo on Instagram, and that one is aimed at more firearms, two-way related stuff. Right now, I am periodically posting some random photos from Thunder on the Prairie. Really, the goal is to, if I can get to more events, in the future, whether it be in the coming year or coming years, and post, headshots that I take of 2A activists. So I feel like that'd be a pretty cool project to freaking cat. Archive myself. So, but yeah. So there's that, and I might throw up the occasional gun photo. And if you ever wonder what Billy Bob looks like, he's one of the first photos on there. So
G-Webs, how about you? Anything you want to plug?
The anti-shotgun campaign that I'm working on. It's a bunch of people that have been affected by shotguns and want to get the word out about the alternatives to shotguns.
What for how much you say you dislike the platform? You are very good at explaining the positives, and it almost sounds like it's
Look, you know
Right.
fentanyl's bad. So if you're listening to some fentanyl junkie tell you about how horrible it was in the worst parts of their addiction, you don't look at that and go, "Oh, they're selling fentanyl." They're trying to tell you the real life deal that there's this draw, this appeal that seems innocent at first, and then next thing you know, you've got dozens and dozens of shotguns. Futtery. It happens to people.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Anyway, they're neat, but don't depend on them. Don't. There's more out there than just shotguns. You can keep exploring. We haven't even talked about Derringers or the world of revolvers. Well, we could go to the Thunder 5, which is a 5-shot 410, and that'll transition us into revolvers next time. But seriously, when is the bracket starting? Like, is this the segue into the bracket now?
No, I told you. My friend borrowed the bracket, so I have to wait to get it back.
This is 2024. You could have more than one bracket. You could have like a couple of them.
Mr. Bob said for the next overnight, a bracket of the best excuses for not having a bracket. Well, they're not excuses, they're explanations. Gary, how about you? Anything you want to plug? What you got coming up?
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with shotguns. But not that I dislike shotguns or like them. But actually, we should have a couple knife videos coming out in the next week or so. Also, for my channel members, if there are any here, well, there are at least a couple, 3. Members only chat every Wednesday night at 8:00 p.m. Central. And then Friday night, my main live stream, Foul Territory, and that's at 9 p.m. Central. So we've even take a step or two into brackets on. Well, we did one on Wednesday night. I think we did one on Friday night once. So maybe if some people have trouble keeping their brackets working, maybe they could borrow ours next time. So anyway, yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. So next chat will be Wednesday.
If
for
your
Mouse
bracket
Party.
lasts longer than 4 hours, see a physician.
Yeah. If you watch this in replay, leave a comment. Anything we talked about, agree with, disagree with. Do you like shotguns? What was your first gun? Do you still have your first gun? And thank you to those that were out in the chat, chatting it up. And if you were watching, didn't say anything, I appreciate you being here. Don't be afraid to speak up. Let me know that you're out there. And I think other than that, I hope everybody has a good rest of the night and go do something good.
You still here? It's over. Go home.